Monkey see, monkey do. This is the focus group.
They're all business, except when they're not. It's the focus group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Hello, everybody. Tim Bennett here, as always, my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. Hello, Mr. Nash. Welcome back from your travels.
Thank you. I'm laughing at monkey see, monkey do. We'll all learn what that means shortly, I'm sure, in the broadcast. And what do we have lined up for the day?
So we this is the focus group. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to our friends at Deep Discount for bringing us to you each week as well. You can find all about us at focusgroupradio.com. All of our media is housed there, including our podcast, which is TFG Unbuttoned, which is released every Tuesday. The format of our show each Wednesday is a little banter. John and I catch up with one another, and then we do a segment we call Caught My Eye, where we both share a story that attracted us for the week. And then we do a segment with movies sometimes. This week, I think we're going to not do a movie pick, but we will be doing a business birthday, which we're famous for as the only show in the universe that does business birthdays. And then we will do a shop talk, and we have two of them this week.
Back from San Diego, fun wedding. It was the first time I've traveled in 2 years, and if you listen to TFG Unbuttoned, our Tuesday podcast, you'll hear some of my airplane stories. But the wedding was fun. It was for the wedding. It was for our friends Alex and Tyler. They tied the knot. Now, these guys, I think they're 30, 31, and I've known Alex since he graduated from college. And I knew him before he met Tyler, and they're a great fit, and it was a really, really well-done, fun wedding. And now, as we age, we don't really get the invites for weddings any longer. When we were younger, it was all the time, right? Oh, another wedding I got to go to, or you didn't go to. This was different, and because of their age, many of the friends that they had there were in their early 30s as well. So we were like that kind of the old gay couple.
I'm surprised you went.
The old gays. Oh, no. We had a great time, and his parents are cool. Everybody we met was really, really cool. Lots of fun. They just did a really good, there was a welcoming cocktail on Friday. The wedding was Saturday, and then they had this brunch on Sunday. The one thing that a lot of the conversations were fun, and one stuck in my head. I was talking to one of their friends about dating. Is he dating anybody? How do you find somebody? And he flipped the conversation around and said, I want to ask you about what it was like when you were my age dating. And I was like, well, the phones were still attached to the wall through a cord. We had answering machines. And you would agree to meet a group of friends at a bar. Maybe the bar wasn't so great when you got there, but you were stuck because you were waiting for everybody to come. And maybe they had a good jukebox, and you struck up a conversation with someone there or the bartender. I guess the theme of and we went to bars all the time and had fun and hung out with groups of friends. The theme was random happens, and often you would meet somebody that you wouldn't expect to meet, and that person could end up being someone you would date or you would fall in love with. And after he hears this, and I'm like, I'm sorry to bother you with the old timer stories, he just kind of sighs. He goes, I am so envious. I'm envious of what you had because it is way different now. He goes, there's an app for everything. And if you want a certain kind of an encounter, you might go to maybe Grindr. If you want a date, you go here. If you want love for your life, you go there. It sounds like a heavily curated process, and I don't think it was that way when we were younger, right? It was, random happens, right?
Yeah, no, I think it's horrible now. I think it's like that with everything. Even I talked to a bunch of college kids, and now. Whereas when we used to go out in college, you'd go out on a weeknight or something, whether your college went out on Wednesday nights or Thursdays or the weekends, you would all say you're going to meet somewhere downtown at a college bar. And exactly what you said, that's what you did. You went there and random happened. You might find a party along the way. You might run into friends along the way and said, hey, we're going to go to XYZ. But you would all end up at the one place and then, decide what you were going to do. Now what they do is they send one kid down. Everybody else stays back.
The canary in a coal mine.
Right. And then they type back, oh, it's beat. So they stay in their rooms. Well, of course it's beat because you all stayed back. You sent one kid. So of course it's beat. So you're exactly right. Random does not happen. But yeah, some of my best times were unplanned because you just exactly what you said. You would start, you'd wander out and you would, find the unexpected along the way. And I think that was what was so great about it. But yeah, those days are lost.
Well, and I don't know how I would fare in the land of apps, because it's a picture. Are your pictures up to date? What are you into? I'm into this, this, and this. Oh, you're not. Okay, goodbye. I mean, and those are the things that happened when you would date somebody, the discovery phase, right? You didn't know that right up. They didn't have a profile that was printed, and you walk into the bar, and it's like, okay, here's this guy, like a bullet. It would almost be as if to reverse all this and make it sound like really like a Luddite. Imagine if every gay bar you went to had a big cork wall, and when you walk in, you had to stick a piece of paper with your picture on it on the wall, and it had everything you were in. It was like an app, like a make-believe app, right? Like, could you imagine having to do that before you even had a conversation with someone? Because sometimes we met people that, and I know a lot of friends whose friend network are the people they actually met for like a one-night stand or something, and they have it wasn't a bad thing, and it was just, it was great, it was fun, but yeah, it wasn't quite what they were looking for long term. But now they're best friends. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. You're exactly right, and that's. Hey, listen, you and I ran into it at the time when Las Vegas sent us out and they put us on a tour of bars, and they sent us to one club, and you and I were shocked because you and I are standing there watching, and we're watching everybody walking around with their heads in their phones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you and I are like, what's going on here? The whole point of going to a nightclub or going to a bar was to enjoy the people that were there. It's the same thing I find with people at concerts. There was one concert, somebody, I forget who it was, but she actually stopped the show. Somebody famous, it might have been Bette Midler, actually stopped the show. Might have been Hello Dolly, and said,
Wow.
Put your phone away.
Just get it away. Yeah.
Because, you're here, look on the show's up here on the stage, not through your screen.
That's
experience the show.
Remember the time you came and saw the Pet Shop Boys with us at the Hammerstein Ballroom?
Right.
And when Bob was he paid to have us greet the Pet Shop Boys. Remember the greeting line? And he got up there and he was like, Patsy on AvFab, tongue-tied. You can never have too many hats, gloves, and shoes. And we were the ones that were chatting them up. We almost had them on Sirius, too. Remember? You had arranged with their business manager when they came
Until
back.
Until the a-holes at Sirius heard about it and then canceled it, remember?
Jumped in. Oh, yeah.
They're not allowed to do that. Why not?
Their booking department was so territorial. But when we saw the Pet Shop Boys, when Tim and I and Bob saw the Pet Shop Boys, this concert started and all the rectangles went up in the air, the blue screens. Everybody was recording the show that was happening right in front of them. But 2 weeks earlier, Bob and I saw Grace Jones at the Hammerstein Ballroom. Completely different. Very few people recorded the show. Everybody just danced and loved watching Grace Jones come out in these crazy costumes, these fabulous looks, right? And dance and enjoy all her music. So that's a generational thing. Clearly, the Grace Jones crowd was different than the Pet Shop Boys crowd. But yeah,
I wonder if she's still doing concert, Grace Jones.
I don't know. And I'm so glad I got to see her at that venue because that ended up being a fun venue. It's tiring standing on your feet waiting for the show to begin, but once it starts, it's there.
Was she late? Because isn't she notorious?
Oh, she was 45 minutes, 50 minutes late. In fact, everybody was like, "Why are you here so early? She's not going to be on time." I'm like, "How do you know?" "Oh, we've seen her before." Yeah, so I miss seeing some of the live shows. And the whole travel thing, car rental, everything went pretty smoothly. Everybody was masked up in all the areas they were supposed to be. And it was delightful to be in, California weather. It's 75 every day, 80, with a nice breeze off the ocean. And so good wedding, lots of fun, extremely well done. They just did a great job, not only with the band, but everything from food all the way down to just the look and the feel. It was just a really great group of people, and it was a lot of fun. And so that was our big fixation for the year. Like, we've been planning this for a while, and back when we planned it, we thought it would be a little different concerning the event in the country. And, it's different, but different in a way that I wasn't expecting.
Was there a sit-down dinner?
Yes, there was, yeah.
What did you have?
I had, I think I had the filet mignon, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was
one of those like we talked about where, depending upon your gift, you got a certain level of food?
No, thank God. There wasn't.
You and who gave the who gave the toaster? You'll have the crab dip.
Who gave us that Dyson vacuum cleaner? You're getting nothing because you're not a Dyson fan.
It'll be returned.
I will say one other thing. Before the wedding, we had time because it was 4:00 on a Saturday. We went to Balboa Park, which is their big park. A lot's there. A lot of museums are there, and we happened upon something called the Model Railroad Museum. And I can't tell you, we had so much fun. It's these huge model train setups, towns and villages, recreations of freight lines, mountains and tunnels, and it's run by a bunch of people who are model railroaders. A bunch of clubs get together and they created this museum. I think it was one of the most fun museums we went to outside of the aquarium and possibly the San Diego Zoo, which is an amazing event as well. San Diego Zoo can't be missed. But the Model Railroad Museum really caught our fancy. We were there for quite some time.
So do they have all the trains running on tracks?
And they're all different gauges. They have the HO, they had the O gauge. They had one room they called the sparkly room, or the room that got all the attention. It looked like a Macy's Christmas display. SO gas station, Taco Bell, like everything was like miniatures of everything, and all the trains had lots of lights on them. It was like a Christmas room. But then there was one that was a to-scale recreation of a famous freight line going from California to Arizona or something, and the trains are moving along at a certain speed. And I said to one of the guys, one of the volunteers whose club it was, I said, "Why is it moving so slow?" He said, "Well, if you were small, if you were to scale, this train's moving at 20 miles an hour." So a lot, and they took a lot of pride. It was cool. Do you like trains? Do you like model trains?
Oh, I do, and I always marvel at people who take the time to set them up, and because it takes a lot of work.
Well, here's one. Here's a little piece of learning. I'm talking to this one guy who stayed with us for part of the tour, and we were just chatting with him, and he was super nice. And I said, "How long does it take you to clean all these tracks?" Because you have to clean the track. Remember, any kid knows that after a while you got to clean it. And he said, no, we have automation that does that. And he showed us this little car. I've never heard of this before, but you can buy a train car, and you put a cleaning fluid in it, and it runs along, and it wipes. There's a little piece of felt that goes along the track, and it wipes the track. And then behind it is another thing with a roller on it that dries it off. So it's all a miniature.
No, you used to have to use a Q-tip.
Remember the alcohol to clean the track.
Yeah.
And I said, when you put the tracks together, aren't there? He goes, no, we solder them together. We don't work. Remember the little pins we used to have to use to slide them? And it was always an electrical problem with those pins. So, yeah.
Wow. Jeez. So what caught your eye this week, Mr. Nash?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
It probably caught a lot of people's eyes because it just happened. And that would be the death of actor Ed Asner. Emmy Award-winning star of Lou Grant and the Pixar movie Up, but also Mary Tyler Moore's boss in the Mary Tyler Moore Show. He died at 91 over the weekend. And, the thing about him was that I was fascinated. So he's best known for playing a gruff newsman, and uniquely over two completely different shows, a comedy being the Mary Tyler Moore Show and a drama being Lou Grant. He was born on November 15th of 1929 and just passed away on Sunday, August 29th of 2021. American actor. He was president of the Screen Actors Guild, and he's known, as I mentioned before, for playing Lou Grant in the 70s and then the 80s on the Mary Tyler Moore Show and the spinoff Lou Grant. Because of that, he is the most honored male performer in the history of the Primetime Emmy Awards, having won seven, 5 for portraying Lou Grant, 3 as supporting actor in a comedy, that's Mary Tyler Moore, and 2 as a lead actor in a dramatic television series, spin-off Lou Grant. He also won an Emmy for his portrayal of a character in Rich Man, Poor Man, and he was also in Roots, where he won an Emmy as well. He's played opposite John Wayne. He played Santa Claus in several films, including 2003's Elf, which I did not know. And most people of recent years know him as the voice of Carl Fredricksen in Pixar's animated film Up, and he's also been on CSI New York. So while I was researching him and reading, I liked Ed Asner a great deal, and I was sad to hear of his passing. But I was fascinated because I was introduced to him through Lou Grant, the drama show that took place at a newspaper when his boss was Miriam Pynchon. I think it was loosely based on the Washington Post because wasn't there Graham was the woman who owned the Post for a while.
Right.
Is that right? So But then once I knew who he was, I reverse engineered and watched the Mary Tyler Moore Show. So most people knew him from Mary Tyler Moore to Lou Grant. I watched the reverse. So that's what caught my eye. I'm, sad to see him go. In researching him, though, apparently there are some interesting interviews where his views on communism often held him back, he thinks, because he might have been a communist. I think he also had some other little interesting political bents that might have not sat well in Hollywood. But I did pull an audio clip for us to listen to. It's about 1.5 minutes, and it's from the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And I chose this one because it will relate to Tim and I. We always talk about this stuff. It's his job. It's Mary Tyler Moore's first interview with Mr. Grant. And it's exactly a script for how an interview is not supposed to go, but I thought he handled it perfectly. So here's this little clip I pulled.
How old are you?
30.
No hedging. No, how old do I look?
Why hedge? How old do I look?
30. What religion are you?
Mr. Grant, I don't quite know how to say this, but you're not allowed to ask that when someone's applying for a job. It's against the law.
Want to call a cop?
No.
Good. Would you think I was violating your civil rights if I asked if you're married?
Presbyterian. Well, I decided I'd answer your religion question.
Divorced?
No.
Never married?
No.
Why?
Why?
You type?
Mr. Grant, there's no simple answer to that question.
Yes, there is. How about, no, I can't type, or yes, I can?
There's no simple answer to why a person isn't married.
How many different reasons can there be?
65.
Parts per minute. My typing question.
Yes.
Look, miss, would you try answering the questions as I ask them?
Yes, Mr. Grant, I will, but it does seem that you've been asking a lot of very personal questions that don't have a thing to do with my qualifications for this job.
You know what? You got spunk.
Well,
I hate spunk. Tell you what, I'll try you out for a couple of weeks, see if it works out.
Oh.
If I don't like you, I'll fire you.
Right.
You don't like me, I'll fire you.
I kind of saw you in that clip. You don't
Why?
like what I'm asking? All right, call a cop. I don't know. I think there's a little bit of Lou Grant and Tim Bennett. That's what I think.
I would never ask such questions.
Well, you couldn't because HR would never let us get away with it. But that was a script for how an interview is not supposed to be conducted. Age, religion, marriage, all these you're not supposed to ask those personal questions. Well done.
I got asked the question. I got asked that a lot why I wasn't married at Subaru.
Yes, I do remember that. And that continued through a lot of your career, actually.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They were preternaturally obsessed with that, weren't they?
Big question. Lots of questions about that. Why are you not married? And even the Japanese are very concerned about not being married. So, yeah. So I could see it. That's a good one, though. Yeah, no, I was surprised he died. And for some reason, I don't know why I thought he had already passed away.
And I may be stepping into it because I didn't do the research, but one of the newscasters I watched said that the only surviving member of the Mary Tyler Moore cast, surprisingly, is Betty White.
I'm like, shoot, outliving everybody.
Yeah.
You know, somebody did that about Match Game, too. There was a Match Game show on, and they said, it was the same sort of thing. The whole cast was dead other than, Betty White on one of the shows.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah, and then there was somebody, the drummer from the Rolling Stones that died, too, as well. But, yes, I was
Our
have
pop
you ever
culture.
seen the Rolling Stones in concert?
I do think we did, yes.
Yeah, they're
quite a band.
They're supposed to be. Yeah, they're supposed to be going on concert again. But my goodness. So I posted the B-52s.
I saw
Red
that
album.
Yeah,
It's
still a
41
classic.
years old.
Still a classic. We had an '80s channel in the place that we stayed, the Airbnb, and I got to tell you, it was like being in college again. Love Shack came on, like all these songs from when we were in college, and I thought this is all they had to do is play the MTV logo, and I would have been back in school. Remember how we used to sit through video after video, hoping the next one was going to be one that we really wanted.
Right, there was no fast forwarding.
No. All right. So what caught your eye?
So I saw this one. It was the headline is Belgian woman banned from zoo after a 4-year affair with a chimpanzee.
An affair.
So this woman, 80 Timmermans, so she's been banned from the zoo for coming. So she's been going to the zoo every day or every week for 4 weeks. She had this in Antwerp at the museum. She's had this bond with this chimpanzee. She's been going to this 38-year-old chimp named Chita. And she's been going there. The chimp has been living there for 30 years. And this woman would go there every week, and she would spend hours with the chimp. And the chimp would come in and look at her, and they would visit and blow kisses, and she would talk to the chimp. And the zookeepers would see that what was happening was this chimp was bonding with her. And the other chimps were upset, because they would see that they would start then alienating the chimp, and they were fearful that as the chimp was bonding with her, that the chimp would not be accepted with the other chimps at the remainder of the day, and that this imprinting that was going on was going to be very dangerous for the chimp and not a good thing. And then when they did a little more research, they also found out that, of course, this chimp that was in there had originally been somebody's pet and had been with humans before, so they were even more concerned that it was a confusion to the animals. So they said to this woman, please do not come here and come to the zoo and spend all this time, with the animals. So she comes back and says, well, I'm having an affair with the animals. She's a nut. So she says,
I'm having an affair with the chimp behind plexiglass. Okay.
Behind plexiglass. She says, she says, I love that animal and he loves me. I haven't got anything else. Why do you want to take that away from me? We're having an affair. I'll just say that. So the zoo officials say that the woman is in love with the chimp and that they've had to contact authorities. She called the TV channel and told the TV channel that she was in love with this chimp and that they were in fact in love with each other. And she thought that what the zoo was doing to her was inhumane. And so they said that she would sit there and blow kisses to the chimp, and the chimp would blow kisses back. And but the zoo says this is negatively impacting the rapport with the other chimps. So they would say that when she would leave, then the chimp would just sit outside for hours by itself, kind of waiting.
Like it was sad.
Right, for her to come back. So they said this is making the chimp way too focused on people. So anyway, she's been banned from the zoo. They had to eventually ban her from the zoo. She says, well, other people are allowed to come in the zoo. They said, well, they're not, having an affair with the monkey or with the chimp.
One of our,
yeah. So they said that they're now zookeepers are now working toward trying to help Chita learn how to interact with the fellow primates and get her back involved with the family unit. Now that 80 Zimmermans, 80, how do you say her name? 80 Timmermans is not allowed back into the zoo in Belgium to continue the affair with the chimp.
This story is so funny that you picked this, because when we went to the San Diego Zoo for a day, we spent a lot of time at the chimp and orangutan areas where they can play and run around. And they had many volunteers there telling you about the life of the animal, and they all have personalities, but they're all, they're all in their thing. And one thing that the one guy said was, at night there's rooms under what you're looking at that they go into because they like being indoors at night, and they watch cartoons. The chimps watch cartoons at night. So some other person was listening to this. I wonder what they watch.
Miguel a gorilla,
Tom and Jerry. Like, who knows what they watch? But they are, when you watch them, they are, obviously they're so close to us in terms of evolution and primate. They act very human. I mean, the use of their hands, the way the play they engage in, the way they are aware of us. And the volunteers said some will make eye contact, but that's very rare. And when they do, it's like a certain connection. So this is interesting. I mean, I'm not sure that an affair with a chimp and she had to be banned from the zoo. Wow, that's off the rails, Yeah,
we was just sitting there blowing kisses.
I
used to in Chicago. When I lived in Chicago, I would go to the park and I would do the same thing. They had I would be fascinated by at feeding time, how the hierarchy of who would get what, and how they would decide who was getting what food and who collected what, and then they would go off in their corners and eat. And they like to eat the sweet fruit first, and
Yep.
But yeah, it's and then when you do look at them in the eye, you wonder because they do look at you, and you wonder what they're processing because there is some sort of you can tell that they're processing something. I don't know, obviously. What
They
it
have
is.
emotional states. There was one that one big one who always I said, "Boy, she or he looks down," and he said, "No, that's a she, and she is down. She's been depressed the last few weeks." I was like, and they know this from watching their behavior. This woman in Germany, though, who had to be banned from the zoo, caught my eye. It's almost as if couldn't she fall in love with a prisoner? I mean, so the chimp is behind plexiglass. If she fell in love with a convict, they're behind bars. At least there's more chance that something might happen down the road. Right?
Well, you're right. You're exactly right.
I don't mean to be
Would you ever go to Rwanda, like one of those encounter things that they do? Chris Reber, our friend, went to one of those. I've seen them on YouTube. I've watched where you go out into go with the guides, and then you come upon the chimp or the orangutan families or whatever. But they're so strong. These animals are so strong. You just wonder. I would like to do it, but I think I'd also be scared because you're so vulnerable.
I'm with you
as a human.
And the highest on that ladder I would go, and I explained this to a bunch of people out in San Diego, was the dolphin encounter we did in Mexico.
Which I don't think I would ever do again.
So Tim and I and a bunch and our friends Rosie and Comrade, we go to the dolphin encounter. You have to shower to get sunblock off. You put an orange vest on. You get in this tank, and you're told to not approach the dolphins. They will come to you. And eventually they started swimming around us and we could touch them, and they gave us rides. But remember that there was one woman in the tank. Why aren't the dolphins coming to me? And the guy would be like, they don't like you. Why don't they like
the guy they yanked out
out of the pool?
They were afraid they were going to
attack her because if they leave you alone, there's something about you they don't like. And she was upset, and they had to explain it to her. But so to follow up on your encounter in like Rwanda with like monkeys, I agree with you. I mean, it sounds like a great idea, but what if one's having a bad day? And what if they don't like
it?
The dolphin was safe. I mean, you could get out of the water quick, but in Rwanda, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, we are going to take a super quick break, and when we come back, we have business, birthday, and some shop talks for you, so stay with us.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Now back to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Available pretty much everywhere.
Welcome back to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here with John Nash. Thanks for joining us. We're in the second part of our show here. Be sure to head over to focusgroupradio.com to learn more about us and also find all of our media, which is housed there. You also find our sponsors there, including Deep Discount. And we appreciate them supporting us, and we appreciate you supporting them. So, Mr. Nash, we have our business birthday.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
Do you know Alfred Eli Beach?
No. I do know because I just set up the slide, but you're going to let me know everything about him.
Well, listen. So he was born September 1st. First of all, can you believe it's September 1st?
Yeah. It's hard to, no. Here we are in the fall again.
I know. September 1st, he was born 1826, died January 1st, 1896 at 69. An American inventor, publisher, and patent lawyer. He's born in Massachusetts. He's most known for his design of New York City's earliest subway, which was it was known as the Beach Pneumatic Transit. So he wanted to do a subway with pneumatic tires, with rubber tires underneath the ground.
Oh, okay. When I look at the diagram that you had on this, it's an old patent application. I thought he did something where it was pneumatic in that the car was pushed along through a tube of air or something, but he wanted to do tires. Okay.
Well, I think it was also, there was a combination too.
Okay.
As you'll see, nothing happened.
Hang with us. You're going to learn the facts.
But he also patented a typewriter for the blind, which also I didn't quite understand that. So, but then I was trying to figure out, how do the blind know what time it is? I guess you hit a thing and it tells you what time it is.
Mm-hmm.
If you're blind, how do you know what time it is?
The time is. You can ask me. I'll tell you.
So I don't know. I guess this is sort of a question. So he designed. They said he designed the earliest subway. So he worked with his dad, and until he worked for his dad for a number of years, and then he decided to buy Scientific American, the magazine.
Oh my God!
When
Sure
it
thing.
when it had just started, he and his friend, and so it was a relatively new publication. So they had bought it, and they continued for many decades to carry on the publishing of it, and it was then decades later given to their sons and grandsons, and I believe it's still in publication. And so that was one of his claim to fame as a publisher. But while he was doing that, he also had patented a number of his own inventions, notably this typewriter that was used by the blind. And then also he did the first engineering of designing and building the first tunneling shields that they would use for tunneling for subways, I guess. Is that what you would call a tunneling shield?
I sure would.
So before, I guess, when they would look at London's subways, for instance, and they were done in a square because I guess they were dug. This was more done circular. But the problem was they talked about the areas, and you would know because you're in Manhattan, where they were trying to do these things. But so his idea started in the 1860s, and he said traffic in New York was a nightmare. You imagine what was it, horse and buggy?
Yeah, exactly. And to have it be called a nightmare in 1860 tells you something. There you go.
Right. Said traffic in the late 1860s in New York was a nightmare, especially along the central artery of Broadway. Still is.
Still is, yeah.
So they said he was one of the visionaries. He proposed building an underground railway, and it was going to be under Broadway and was going to help relieve all this traffic congestion. And back then, everybody thought, well, if you do that underground, you're going to have to use steam engines. And he didn't want to do that. So he had decided he was going to do this pneumatic sort of system, and which was going to propel. So you're probably right. It was going to push more with air, I guess. But also he wanted it to be quiet because they were concerned that it was going to be noisy, and it was also going to damage buildings, and it was going to create all this havoc down below ground. So even though he would start getting approval from this, all the shopkeepers and everybody were upset that it was going to interfere with the surface traffic. So what it really was, people felt that if they had people underground, they weren't going to support the businesses up top. So even when he would get funding, they said that he would get opposition from the legislatures would always vote this down. So even when he would get funding, they said the bills within the city, and they mentioned they said the opposition came from the politically connected and the property owners along Broadway. They would always vote this down because they were concerned it was going to take business away by putting everybody underground. So
you look back and you just like, okay.
Right. So they said he tried in 1871. He finally got it to pass the legislature. But then in 1872, the governor, Hoffman, at the time in New York, voted it down. Then in 1873, it passed again, but again, it got voted down. 1873, it got passed again, but then they said the financial markets dried up. So he was able to only build about 300 feet of railway in an area. They said it was somewhere around, they said a Devlin's department store.
Never know.
Somewhere around Broadway and Warren Street.
Oh, okay.
And they said it was around a curve.
It's downtown,
and
yeah.
Right, and they were trying to show it, and then it went to the south side of Murray Street. And it was then destroyed when the department store was destroyed by fire in 1898. It just, the whole idea just kind of went away. And so then they tried to also do one in England, and it also fell apart. So as we know, many, many years later, of course, that, subways and the metro have become the only way to get around New York efficiently, I think, in many ways. But he was the early promoter of that, but it just never took off. He died of pneumonia in 1896 in New York City at the age of 69. He had a bunch of land in Connecticut, and he donated it in the town of Stratford to the Housatonic Boat Club, which is the oldest operating yacht club in Connecticut.
Very cool.
Housatonic?
Very cool.
He also gave the tunneling shield to some folks in Michigan, and they opened or they constructed the Grand Trunk Railway for tunneling into Canada as part of the St. Clair Tunnel into Ontario. So it's but it's funny. He had this great idea. They said they he was probably way ahead of his time, but he just never got. This goes back to what we all say. He never got the. Well, it was a smart idea. The politically connected just squelched it.
And so, those are the ones you want to sell it to, right?
Yeah. So the politicos said no. The business people said no. So it went nowhere. So I was wondering if you had heard about him.
No, this is news to me. But I bet if I went to the Transit Museum, which I'm dying to do one of these days, I bet they have a little thing about him because they try to, chronicle the entire evolution of the subway, and that would be one of the first attempts to have something underground. Of course, the business concerns of like, oh, we're going to lose all our business if people go underground. No, it's the opposite. No one wants to be down there. You're going down there to take a ride.
It's funny. I don't think New York, well, no, New York does have it, I guess. But, Philadelphia has a very vibrant kind of world underground.
Oh, yes.
And, New York does too in some ways, but Philadelphia really does as well, which it always amazed me. There's a lot going on down below too you don't know about.
Remember the time I showed up to meet you for drinks at Rittenhouse Square?
You took something I didn't even know existed. Some
and you're like, well, it's like a SEPTA thing or something, but it was like some trolley car thing. And you're like, how'd you get here? I'm like, I took the underground thing. And everybody was like, what?
Yeah, nobody even knew that thing existed. Like, I didn't know you could get over there from there. It was some little tiny car thing. It was sort of like a coal car, a little bigger than a coal car.
No, it was like a trolley. It reminded me of being in Boston, actually, a coal car. As I sit down and I throw it and listen to you.
Coal car.
I've never been down there. How'd you get over here?
Like, how'd you get there? There's nothing runs over here.
It was very funny.
Yeah, So we have shop talk, a couple of shop talks. The first one, and John found these. The first one, the headline is, with one sentence, Tim Cook explained the real reason morning people are more productive. I laughed at this one. I laughed that you picked this one because you're not a morning person.
I picked it for you.
I'm a morning person. I'm a morning person. You're an evening person. But I think we're both productive in our own way. So, but Tim Cook explained that he gets more done in the morning. And so they said here that there was, that whole adage or cliche of the early bird gets the worm. But they said it's not about having more time, but it's just about getting things done at a certain time of day when you're not being interrupted. And that's really what this is. So I laugh because a lot of times you'll do things very late and I'll get them. And I'll do things very early and send them to you. But the way both you and I operate, when you do things very late, it's because you're not being interrupted. And when I do things very early, it's because I'm not being interrupted.
It's true.
And so that's kind of the moral of the story, as Tim Cook says, he gets up at 4:00 and he does it because that's the time he can get up and feels he is uninterrupted. So he can read emails, do some things that he wants to do that he knows he's not going to be disturbed. He could also get a workout in, which he says helps kind of decompress him and get, take some stress out of his life. And I used to remember this from my days of when I could row before I hurt my back. If I didn't do my workout in the morning, life gets in the way and your work gets in the way. And you and I have said that all the time in terms of getting sidetracked. How many times you and I would have a day planned and we get a call from Volkswagen or something, and then the whole day would collapse because it's
not because it was bad.
Do that?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, because it was a request. And as Tim said, I found the fact that he really just said, okay, the deal here is I get quiet me time before my ship gets blown off course by the events of the day. But I loved what he does. So as Tim said, he does email and stuff in the morning, but specifically, he reads customer emails, and he says, I cannot read them. I can't read all of them. I not admit to doing that, but I read an extraordinary number of them. It keeps my hands on the pulse of what customers are feeling and thinking and doing. So it's almost like reading the comments section of an article, right? So he reads all these. And then he's at the gym. And importantly, I believe that he's off the grid for this period. So he may be reading these emails and he may be at the gym and stuff, but he's not technically responding. He's not doing that. He's just basically absorbing information and taking care of his body, which I thought was really cool. So I'm admiring of that. He's been on the job for over a decade now, and he used to help turn Apple into a $2 trillion company.
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't think he'd last, right?
No. In fact, there's another article in Inc. magazine talks about, it was like Steve Jobs' greatest invention appears to be Tim Cook, because the two of them were such a team when Steve Jobs was alive, and he handpicked him to succeed him. And Tim Cook was in operations and a guy that got things done. He streamlined stuff. So it was an interesting pick. But yeah, here he is. And he wants to do one more big product launch before he retires. I don't know what that...
What do you think the customers are writing him about?
You can only imagine, right? I mean, let's just, you know how people can complain about anything, right? You can only imagine.
I mean, I would write him and say, how come you don't return things that aren't open? Right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what else you're going to write about. They have no return policy. How come you don't put things on sale? I don't know. I mean, there's a number of things I guess you could write about, but I was just wondering, what do you think the next big product would be? I think it's going to be Apple. Weren't they going to do a TV set?
They were. That seems to be back channeled. Everybody keeps talking.
Car.
Everybody, yeah, car keeps. You and I both know how hard it is to make a car. That is not
only $1 billion.
It's not an easy. Well, when you're a $2 trillion company, I suppose you could do this, right? But it's not an easy prospect.
All right. So then the second story, John. I'll let you guide this one here. What was our second story that you picked?
Well, this story is about retirement planning, but not in the traditional sense. The article is from Forbes, and the headline reads, "Got Friends? 4 questions about retirement planning, true Social Security, and social media." I think the core of this article I'm going to sum up best in this paragraph. We make financial security the focus in our retirement planning. Not incorrect, but incomplete. Our real Social Security, in fact, is not an income stream provided by the government, but by our social relationships, our friends. While we worry about the capital we require to retire, few of us consider the social capital, friends, we will need to remain connected, engaged, to have fun, and to manage the many challenges older age brings. So this whole article, it's not a long one, but it revolves around this notion of, while you're worrying about your retirement savings, you need to be worrying about the people around you, because they are going to be much more important in the long run than whether or not you have a guaranteed stream of income. And I see this, and I'm sure, Tim, you've seen this. In fact, the story you told me once relates to this perfectly. Does your dad still talk about his best friend?
Yeah, misses him every day.
Yeah, okay, so Tim's dad, how long were they friends for? As long as you and I, maybe?
Since childhood, since like 6 years old.
Yeah, so I'll just say for the record that if something were to happen to you, I'll feel like I had a limb literally chopped off, because when you know someone that long, they've been a witness to your whole life. They you know, and the important thing is your dad talked to him on the phone all the time, right?
Yeah, no, they did it. You know, they vacationed together, they traveled together, they raised children together. I mean, they were, Lucy and Ethel, right? I mean, it's that sort of thing. When you sent this article, I hadn't. I guess it's something we hadn't thought about, because when you think about retirement,
I always think that's a financial thing. Yeah.
Right. And you and I have said this before. Oh, John, where are you going to retire to? And you said, well, we've got the house upstate, and we think of Palm Springs or something. And I'm down here in Delaware now, but I don't really know people. I didn't know people here that were long term. I've met some friends here that are great, great people and great friends. But it wasn't like people have said, we're all going to go to get a place in Florida, right? It's not like all your friends decided.
Right.
Like if you talk to Pat and Gary, who you've known for many, many years, and it's not like all of us decided as a collective to say, well, we're all going to cluster around Fort Lauderdale or Naples, Florida, or Charleston, South Carolina. There wasn't that sort of discussion.
No,
or Palm Springs, right? I mean, there's not.
And I see this in my mom. I see this in Bob's mom. She's 90. She'll be 91 soon. And she's frank. She has a lot of candor. And when you talk about it, she'll literally say, I have, my friend circle is contracting because they're literally dying.
Right.
So the article had a couple of recommendations. I'm going to go through them. One big thing, though, was this fixation we have on social media and social networks. That's not Social Security in the way this is describing it. A like and liking someone's picture, sending them a thumbs up, or hey, looks like a great vacation, really isn't a great connection. And the author uses a personal story that he had a cubicle mate. Remember cubicles? When the
Right.
and when the personal computer was introduced, she seemed to be the one that could figure things out, get things printed. They've been friends for years. But the friendship evolved into a Facebook friendship, and he was shocked to learn that she passed away from breast cancer. Even though he had been looking at her feed, she had not talked about it on there. And when this call came in from a different friend, he was like, I didn't even know she had it. And he realized that he had let a real friendship turn into something more virtual and a little less connected. So the recommendation is go out, do things, be aware of people, make new friends, and age is important. You can make friends that are younger, like I was talking about the wedding earlier, like our friend, we call Alex and Tyler the kids because they're younger than us, but they're going to be wonderful guys to have around when we're older, and they're going to be able to talk to us about our experiences. We'll be able to share theirs. So a diverse group. So there's 4 thoughts they had here, and it says comprehensive retirement planning, that is longevity planning, is about more than financial security. It is about ensuring your true social security. Of course, social we've described. So what is the balance and status of your social portfolio? Here are 4 questions to consider. 1, do you have an ample number of friends that provide the social capital necessary to address life's many dimensions, to remain connected, to have fun, and to manage difficult times? Again, this happens in the real. Do you have human friends that they and you can share all with? You know, you're the confidant that knows everything. Or are they social media friends that only share pet pics? That's an important distinction. Are you actively seeking activities and places to increase the number of chance collisions you have to encounter new people and to make new friends across the life course? This is going to the gym, joining a club, being in a chorus. I mean, these are the softball, tennis players, golf friends. This is the cycling, rowing, running. And lastly, and something I should have done, the author, when was the last time you picked up the phone and privately asked a friend from long ago, hi, how you doing? And that last one is an important one because I have a friend named Ed. You know Ed. Ed sometimes calls up and I'll answer the phone. I'm like, is something wrong? He goes, no, remember we used to do this all the time? We used to just call. Remember, I would just call you.
Right.
I think I'll call Tim at the office. And whatever you were doing, hey, I got a meeting, or hey, how you doing?
I'm guilty of the last one only because I sometimes feel it's not that I haven't thought about the person. I'll think, oh God, maybe has too much time gone by and now I'll feel bad about calling. And I guess you shouldn't feel bad about calling.
No.
I don't know. Have you done that? Have you picked up? Is there somebody you've been meaning to call and you haven't called?
Our friend Scott, who we used to do some business with, I recently had a chat with. It was like no time had passed at all. And it was far easier than arranging a call, and I got to Zoom this. It was a simple phone call. And I think
you just picked up the phone and dialed.
I called, and he actually answered. Yeah, it was his birthday, and he's like, "Oh my God, thanks for calling my birthday." And I'm prone to do that because you and I remember a time before Zoom when we had very vibrant and strong relationships just from a conversation on a telephone call that would lead to lunch, that would lead to a movie, or maybe go somewhere. So I thought this was a fun counterbalance to all the stuff we talk about with retirement planning in our culture with money and how much do you have and what's the median savings and can you get by and what's the medical. This goes to the core of it all, though. Without people in your life, without honest-to-God, flesh and blood people, not just pics and pet pics and stuff, it's going to be difficult to age. And, I've seen friends and neighbors who are older, who lose friends, and their recovery time is different. And you can tell they need human beings around them to really help them get through something like that. Because I imagine if you're in your 80s or 90s and you lose a close friend, the first thing that would come to my mind is, and it's coming to my mind more frequently, is when's it me? When's it someone closer, right? But we have to, eyes wide open and forward we go because it's a no choice, linear timeline.
No, it's something certainly to think about. And it's, yeah. The woman across the street here that...
I met her. I think she's great.
Very beloved, but they're giving her only, maybe a day or two to live. She got West Nile virus. And she's 96, 97.
No kidding, like from a mosquito or something, right?
Yeah, was healthy as can be, 2-3 weeks ago. And they couldn't figure out what was wrong. They figured out what it was, and they gave her a shot of steroid, and she kind of bounced right back. But now she got pneumonia, and
I remember when she came over for drinks to your place. She was fun.
Yeah.
Very fun. Very fun.
Yeah,
I bet she voted for you too.
So a number of us kind of gathered last night to kind of toast her and share some stories. But I certainly did not know her as long as people down here have known her for many, 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 many years. And just, it was the same sort of thing that you're talking about, that she was, a beloved figure here and a good friend to many people. But, it's that sort of thing of she had plenty of people, I don't say plenty of people around her, but she had plenty of people around her and always was active and involved in so many things and never really thought about dying. She didn't want to admit that she was going to die someday. That was the funny thing that they talked about. They said she never would talk about it because she wasn't going to die.
You know what?
And
it makes me even like her more because she was focused on enjoying the day and the next day to come.
She had just hired a trainer. She joined the gym and hired a trainer, and she was
God.
thinking about getting her kitchen redone. So she was always moving ahead.
Well, see, and that's a great memory for her too. But as Tim said, we were just talking about this a second ago. Call someone. Pick up a phone that you haven't talked. Pick a phone. Call someone you haven't talked to in a while. You might be very surprised. I've had some interesting calls where I've done that, and I'm surprised to learn that you and I have made impressions on people in a very favorable way. Sometimes they are younger professionals who we've mentored, and to get it said back to you that your advice or your help was essential to my career. So you're like, what? So these are all kind of networks and friendships. All right. We're going to stop there and wrap it up for the day. We want to thank you for joining us here on the Focus Group. Focusgroupradio.com is the URL for our website. We have all our media there, including TFG Unbuttoned, our Tuesday podcast, 20 minutes long, 3 quick stories. And you can learn all about our sponsors there as well. One of them is Deep Discount. You can go to Deep Discount by going to focusgroupradio.com and clicking on their logo and get ready to do the Sears Wish Book down the rabbit hole catalog shopping that I prefer when it comes to packaged media. Thanks for spending time with us, and again, we'll see you in the new week.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.